Let's move on to Niners Jets. A lot of people think this is an angry Niners squad that's going to roll in and smash the Jets. The market thinking that as well. Some books have already moved this to 7.5. Open at 6.5. Mostly 7s on the board. Total opens up at 43.5. 42.5's out there, and 42s. And Gerald Jones says Buffalo rolls. Let's talk about the spot. Jimmy G taking a lot of heat. Birdie says I've already bet the under 42.5. Jimmy G taking a lot of heat. 19 for 33, 259 yards.
He did not look well, especially in the second half. He looked terrible. First half, everything was going right for the Niners. They shot out to a 10-0 lead. And then that blocked punt really took the wind out of their sails. That block punt, and then right after it, they just waltzed in for a touchdown. But they're playing the Jets this week. The Jets are a bad football team with the worst coach in the NFL and maybe even in the CFL. I think you could take any CFL coach right now who's not working and plug them into New York, and they'll play better than they will under Gase. I don't know if Jimmy G is overrated. I don't. Does anybody say anything good about him these days? I mean, if anything, he's rated exactly where he should be. He wins. I mean, his record as a starter is 23-7. You can't argue that because they were 4-20 with the same team over that same stretch. So it's hard to say because Debo is now out until at least week 4. Ayuk is back in camp or back in at practice, but who knows? And then Kittle's going to be a game time decision. He had a knee sprain. I don't know. I don't think you can bet on a team with so many question marks. They just signed Mohamed Sanu a couple hours ago. Yeah. I think that can't hurt them. But yeah, Jimmy didn't look confident. He didn't look decisive. And, he's been a guy who's taken some heat, but always seemed to bounce back. He just did not look very good. But I also didn't love Kyle Shanahan's game plan. Like, they really got away from the run when they didn't need to. Mostert was tearing it up. So, if they stick to the run and just let Jimmy G be a game manager, then they got a chance to blow out the Jets this week. But there's so many injuries. There's injuries to that Niners front. That's a thing that a lot of people, don't notice, that they're on their third string center. And Hronis Grasu came off the practice squad earlier that day and became their starting center. So that's not going to make a quarterback comfortable. Unless Garland is back, that's still going to have problems in the middle. Their tackles were fantastic. I don't know how many times I watched Trent Williams destroy Hicks. Like, that block, I think I watched it 50 times at halftime. He blew him up. It looked like me running into a 5-year-old at full speed. It was incredible. But, that interior offensive line is a real question mark for them. So I think you stay off this game until you see how the injuries shape up towards the end of this week.
There was a lot of questionable decisions made in that game by the Niners. But offensively, we'll get into some of the questionable decisions. Offensively, I think that Shanny's hands were sort of tied when Kittle got hurt, and he did come back in the second half. He wasn't even targeted in 30 snaps in the second half.
No, and he wasn't playing full out. He's clearly wasn't. That guy's so tough that he was playing on a sprained knee, and I think, if anything, he was a decoy in that second half.
Agreed. And then Richie James got hurt. Niners only had 3 healthy wide receivers. So there's a lot going wrong. And then I don't understand why Sherman wasn't on Hopkins all game. When Hopkins was on Mosley, he had 10 catches for 96 yards. There was 15 plays that Sherman defended Hopkins, and he had 3 catches on 22 yards.
Yeah, they've got to move Sherman around more. And they actually started to. I think he played more snaps on the other side in Sunday's game than he did all of last year. So that's something they did get wise to that. But I mean, you mentioned this a minute ago, like they're just so thin at wide receiver right now. They're down their top 3 wide receivers. Jalen Hurd was supposed to be their starting slot. He's down for the year with an ACL tear. Debo was obviously supposed to be their number 1, and he's out till week 4, and Ayuk didn't play. So there's just so many injuries on that receiving core that, they have to rely on the run. They have to get Jordan Reed into the game more, especially if Kittle doesn't play. And to be honest with you, I don't think they should play Kittle. He's too valuable to run out there on a wonky knee and possibly make this worse. Just play a hard running game and rely on that and just beat the Jets. But this is a line I'm not going anywhere near because plain and simple injuries and you don't know who's going to play because they're week to week, day to day kind of injuries. So you stay off it.
Well, let's talk about the Jets a little bit. Very little went right in that 27-17 loss. They opened with 3 3-and-outs. They combined for 23 yards of offense and 1 first down. 23 yards of offense and 1 first down on their first 5 possessions. They look bad. Darnold goes 21 for 35 for 215 yards. Jamison Crowder went for 117. Le'Veon Bell gets clearly hurt, and Gase brings him back in. Now he's out for 4 weeks. And they also lose linebacker Blake Cashman to a groin injury. I mean, look, I don't want the Niners to this big of a favorite. What do you expect? What are your expectations of the Jets moving forward?
I expect the Jets to potentially be even worse than they were last year, and I think a lot of it has to do with Adam Gase. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say I could potentially do just as good or better as the head coach of the Jets than Adam Gase right now, just because I think the players might like me more. I don't see how anyone can play for that jackass. He's so bad at his job. It makes no sense. If he's not fired by week 6, the Jets deserve everything that's coming to them. I feel bad for Sam Darnold. He has no weapons. He has no coach. The best thing he's got right now is a 37-year-old Frank Gore. Bless him. Please protect Frankie. Be good to him. But this is just a bad coached team with no weapons, no real protection for Sam Darnold, and a defense that's not going to be good either. They're an awful, awful football team, and they're going to be drafting in the top 3 next year. So if the Niners weren't so banged up and traveling across the country, I would love to take this bet, but I'm staying off it. I just expect a terrible, terrible Jets team. And if they somehow pull out a win against the Niners, then the Niners should just tank for Trevor.
Well, this spot, Birdie comparing it to when the Niners went across and faced the Redskins. I mean, it was a real rainy day last year, but it was 6-3 final score. The weather's pretty nice in New York on Sunday, 68 Fahrenheit.
No, that was a 9-0 final score.
9-0.
Yeah.
12 miles per hour is the wind, 68 Fahrenheit. Is this under calling us, screaming at us?
It's not a bad under because that Jets team is not going to move the ball against the Niners D. The Niners D, actually, they played really well until they got tired last week. And they have historically struggled against dual threat QBs. And also, there were some pretty soft roughing the passer penalties that really drove. They got 65 yards in penalties on one drive. And that defense just got tired because the offense couldn't put together a single good drive, midway through that game, and then Kyler just took advantage of it. That was a gassed defense. That's because of the pandemic and because of everything. None of these teams are really in playing shape yet. So yeah, if there is a play here, it's the under.
Well, I'm going to make a move on it. I think it's going to get lower throughout the week. I'm going to make a move on this under 42.5. And I expect Sanu to do nothing. But I mean, sure, it'll help because you need healthy wide receivers.